1, Section A of the exam focuses on writing for purpose and audience. This is your very first question. Although there is one single task in this section, it carries the most marks. 57 marks are available for an organised and engaging piece that matches the form to the purpose and audience. And 30 marks are also available for using a range of sentence structures as well as accurate spelling, punctuation and grammar. Overall, that means you could get 87 marks for your first task. It's a lot of marks. They advise you to spend 55 minutes overall on this task. However, 15 they suggest that you use for planning, 30 on the writing, and 10 minutes checking your writing, making sure that you've included paragraphs, that your spelling is correct, any other pieces of advanced vocabulary or punctuation that you could include in there, any techniques, things that will make your work pop. Matching your language to best fit the task is key. The form for task 1 could potentially ask you to write a speech, a blog, an article, an essay, or a letter. Next, you must consider the intended audience for the task to ensure you will engage your readers and audience. This will help you to decide if a formal or informal tone will be appropriate, if you can use any slang words, any pieces of humour or social influences, anything like that would engage your audience. But before you plan, you need to be fully aware of the purpose for your writing. So is it to inform, to persuade, or to encourage your readers or audience to do something? We are constantly reading texts every day, either in picture form, written form, or from what we hear on the radio or on TVs or anything like that. So when it comes to writing, you need to make sure that your purpose, audience, the topic, the form line up perfectly. So ask yourself, will you need to inform your audience or the reader on the importance of online safety? Will you be attempting to persuade an audience that homework should be banned? Will you be asked to encourage your council members to create more activities, clubs for young people? Are you going to use imperative verbs? Are you going to make sure that there is an article heading, a title? Are you going to use engaging language choices, pronouns, anything like that will make sure that your audience is fully on board to be persuaded, to be engaged or encouraged? Let's look through past papers for task 1. You can see that in 2018 and January 2019, candidates were asked to write a speech to their classmates to persuade. However, in June 2019 and January 2020, candidates had to write articles for school magazines, but also to persuade their readers. When you read the question, you need to ensure that you identify the form, purpose, and audience and the topic for your writing, because you will not have any time for a tangent. Let's look at this question together. Write a speech to your classmates to persuade them to agree with your views on the following issue. Mobile phones should be banned in school. You can see here that a speech is going to be the form that we need to be writing in. Classmates, so teenagers, young people, are going to be the audience, which will affect your language choices then. You're going to try and persuade them to come around to your way of thinking. And the overall topic is on mobile phones being banned in school. So automatically you will begin to plan, start thinking of social media, cyberbullying, the amount of screen time we use, how this affects our learning, our sleep. Will that then have an on effect, any repercussions to our learning, things like that. Now, let's look at one pupil's sample answer for this question. Now that you've completed your planning, you'll know that the first thing you need to do is structure your answer well, and the first step is always with an engaging introduction. Mobile phones in school. Who has allowed this to happen? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Why on earth would mobile phones be a good idea in school? You must agree with me. Well, if you don't, you definitely will be very shortly. So let's look at all the techniques this candidate has used in their piece of work. Mobile phones. From the outset, she's already addressing what the topic is to make sure that she's hitting the audience with the key point here. Mobile phones in school. She then uses 2 rhetorical questions, and this is to automatically get them to start thinking, why are mobile phones in school? Who let this happen in the first place? and she's questioning the very nature of why they're being used in school. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So, her use of language here very inflammatory, hyperbole, whichever way you like to say it. It's exaggerating this notion that it's terrible, shouldn't have been in school, and she's also giving us her opinion through the use of the word I've. So it's her opinion that she's trying to persuade the audience to get behind. Why on earth would mobile phones be a good idea in school? Again, she's repeating mobile phones here, making sure that the examiner knows that she is on track, she's not going on a tangent, and she has posed another rhetorical question. You must agree. So by using the use of the pronoun you, she's directly addressing her audience, making sure that they're being encouraged to think about this topic and to possibly change their perspective on why mobile phones aren't as good as we all think they are. You must agree. The use of the word agree here, she's telling you what to do. So this is an imperative verb. Agree. You have to agree. You must do this. She then includes the use of the word well. If you don't, you definitely will be very shortly. This is a very casual, informal phrase then, okay? So this is making sure that she's engaging her audience. She's not being over the top with her authoritativeness, but she is trying to make sure that her audience are trying to get behind her. The second step is the main body. This is where she's going to give us all of her key points, the best points to make sure that the audience is aware that mobile phones should not be in school. Firstly, I believe pupils need to turn off their phones during school hours because they might cheat using their phone. For example, there could be a maths test and the pupils could just look up the answers. The teachers don't walk around the room or watch them during the test. They just sit and stare into the computer screen. For all they know, the pupils could be talking, cheating, or halfway to China. Pupils won't learn if they cheat, and when they do, their GCSEs and the examiner walks around. Then they're in a spot of bother. How will they pass if they don't learn? At the beginning of her main body, she uses the word firstly. This adverb is used as a connective to make sure that she's about to list off all of her points, so we're aware that this is the first option and there's going to be more. I believe pupils need to turn off their phones. This is her personal opinion. She's making it very clear from the beginning of the main body. For example, there could be a maths test, so she's giving us an example, a clear one, that her audience members are all too aware of, having to do a test, going to different classes. It's making sure that it's targeting her audience correctly. The use of the phrase, just look up the answers. This is very informal, to just look something up. It's very casual in tone, shows that she's not impressed by the use of phones in school. She continues her paragraph with the use of alliteration. The teachers don't walk around the room or watch them during the test. Again, another use of alliteration. They just sit. So she's repeated the word just, again making this more casual tone come to life and showing the lack of attention that the teachers are giving to the pupils because screens are in the room and therefore they know that the tests aren't going to be very good. So she's showing how disruptive they are even to the teacher's life within the school. They just sit and stare into the computer screen. This is quite humorous. Good use of emotive language, that they sit and stare into the computer screen. Use of hyperbole as well, exaggeration, all to get the attention of anyone that's in the room here. For all they know, the pupils could be talking, cheating, or halfway to China. So, talking, cheating, halfway, this is a use of rule of 3, and giving us a list of all the negative options that could be connected to having a mobile phone in school. Again, she goes on to say pupils won't learn if they cheat. This is her direct opinion and she's making it very clear through her language. She also uses the word cheat as repetition, once again to make sure that we are alerted to the fact that mobile phones are absolutely no good in schools. The use of the phrase spot of bother also adds to this more casual tone. It shows that she's really trying to target her audience of classmates, young teenagers that aren't looking very formal language, but this will help them to engage with this sort of idea that spot of bother doesn't mean it's a massive issue, it's not going to cause danger, it's just going to get them in a spot of bother, perhaps a pastoral issue, behavioural issue. How will they pass if they don't learn? She ends on a rhetorical question, again to pose this question to her classmates ensuring that they have something to mull over while she moves on to her next paragraph. The next step to structuring your speech then is step 3, the counter argument. This is where you have the opportunity to show the other side of the coin. Make sure that your examiner is aware that you are aware of other ideas and that there may be a positive impact that mobile phones can have for learning, and this is your opportunity to show it. People say that phones are for entertainment at break and lunch, but this argument is weak, as this can lead to a lot of bother. Phones would be great entertainment, as we all love to take selfies with our best mates. But when people take pictures of others, that is when it can get messy. Some people hate social media and like to keep themselves to themselves. Sometimes people take photos or videos of other people and post them on places like Snapchat. When this happens, teachers often have to get involved, and the best way to sort it all out is to not have phones at all. No phones, no pictures, no problem. From the beginning of her counter-argument, she uses the phrase people say, so she's trying to include other opinions throughout this paragraph. So people say that phones are for entertainment at break and lunch, but this argument is weak. She then goes back to giving us her point of view by saying that this argument is weak through the use of the conjunction but. Very powerful little word to make sure that we are aware that she is about to change the tone and take it in a completely different direction. This can lead to a lot of bother. So she's repeating this word bother, not an issue or trying to make it into a massive problem that's going to cause an explosion or anything like that, but it is going to cause bother. So she's repeating this idea from her previous paragraph. She then goes on to use repetition by mentioning phones and entertainments. Both of these words are being repeated, showing that she is staying on track. She's making sure that her audience are fully aware of what the topic is and that they can't daydream. We all love to take selfies. The use of the inclusive pronoun we is making sure that she is engaging everybody in her audience. It's not just her problem, it's everybody's problem. Again, though, she uses the use of the conjunction but to turn her sentence on its head. When people take pictures of others, that is when it can get messy. To persuade everybody that even though we love selfies, there's still negative options here that we have to talk about. She emphasises the fact that social media can be a negative thing through the use of repetition here. Some people hate social media and like to keep themselves to themselves, showing that they are quite shy, possibly some people just don't agree with it at all. Sometimes people take photos or videos of other people and post them on places like Snapchat. Snapchat mentioning something very important in society for young people. This will make them sit up in their seats. She's engaging her audience, directly addressing something that they will all be talking about and posting their selfies on. She continues her paragraph by bringing in the teachers. So when this happens, teachers often have to get involved, and the best way to sort it all out is to not have phones at all. The use of the word all, she's used it before, so it's repetition in this instance, but it's very final. She's giving this decision like, there is no reason why we should have them, sorting out the problem, very much an ultimatum. She then finishes off her counter-argument paragraph here with no phones, no pictures, no problem. Very effective use of rule of 3 here. No is repeated 3 times, and also the letter P is repeated 3 times. Very much making sure that the audience and the examiner are aware of where she stands. No phones, no pictures, no problem. She then continues her counter-argument paragraph by saying all the pupils care about is social media and being on their phones. If pupils don't work hard, then they won't reach their full potential. Why earn £100 when you could earn £1,000 just because you didn't work hard enough? It would be one of your life's regrets. I know people who tell me to work hard in school because they didn't, and they deeply regret it. From the beginning of this counter-argument paragraph, she uses the word all the pupils. She's being inclusive with her language, ensuring that her audience is engaged the whole time as she is trying to persuade them to agree with her point of view. So all they care about is social media and being on their phones. She then continues the paragraph with saying that if they don't work hard, they won't reach their full potential. This is slightly more formal in comparison to the rest of the speech, but it really reflects her passion for the topic. They won't reach their full potential. It's showing the negative side in a very clear, non-dramatic way. She then goes on to pose a rhetorical question. Why earn £100 when you could earn £1,000 just because you didn't work hard enough? The use of the two statistics here, £1,000 and 100, is meant to draw our attention to the difference in the two amounts. If you don't try harder, you will end up with £100, whereas if you do try hard and put in the effort now, you'll end up with £1,000. She's trying to engage their thoughts process here to say, well, actually, I would want £1,000. So she's directing their attention to the fact if you don't use your phone in school, you'll work hard and therefore gain more money. Including the pronoun you, your life regrets, she's directing this idea that if you don't work hard, directly to her audience. Not only is she repeating the use of the emotive word regret, but they deeply regret it. So this adverb is emphasising the level of regret that these people who haven't worked hard in school feel, showing her audience that they will feel the same way if they don't put the work in and put away the phones now. The final step to writing the speech is the effective conclusion, where she needs to draw all of her key points together and ensure that her audience is fully aware of the topic, and to really use this time to change their opinions on the use of mobile phones in school. So, do you think pupils need to turn off their phone during school hours? I sincerely hope your answer is no. If not, what on earth are you thinking? Phones cause too much bother and problems. Stop having phones in school. No phones, no pictures, no problems. In summarising all of her key points, she's directing the information towards her audience through the use of the pronoun you. Do you think pupils need to turn off their phones? And posing it as a rhetorical question, really making sure that she is engaging their thought processes to think, how am I going to do better? Continuing on, she says, I sincerely hope your answer is no. In response to this rhetorical question, she's giving us her opinion and that she sincerely hopes that phones should not be used in school. The use of the adverb there, sincerely, is emotive, showing that she is passionate about this topic and that she really wants everyone in the audience to be persuaded to see it from her point of view. This is reinforced through the repetition of the pronoun you, what are you thinking, and the use of a rhetorical question. You can see here at the bottom that she has added on an extra line and drawn the line into where it should be, which is totally fine. She won't lose marks for this really. She's gone back and edited her work, and then continues to use an imperative verb. Stop having phones in school. Like we seen earlier, she has used this imperative verb to command them, to make sure that they're going to do what she wants them to do, again trying to persuade them to not use mobile phones in school. For her final line of the speech, she repeats her rule of three: no phones, no pictures, no problems. This is very effective as it engages her audience, reflects the negativity that mobile phones have, and enforces the idea that they're coming round to her idea of thinking to persuade them to not use phones in school. Overall, let's look at what was good and what could do with a wee bit of improving in this piece of writing. So, she has included plenty of pronouns to engage her audience. There's a clear opinion shared throughout, mostly an informal tone to suit the audience, apart from that one reaching their full potential, which was more formal. Her use of the rule of three was very effective. There was lots of rhetorical questions to persuade, and it was a very well-structured answer, clearly getting her main body in there and engaging opening, effective conclusion, and her counter-argument. The language techniques throughout also communicated her ideas in a very engaging way and persuades her audience to see it from her point of view that mobile phones should not be allowed in school. However, there is always room for improvement, and there was a couple of areas where she could have pushed herself a little bit further, which we're going to look at now. So her vocabulary was a little bit repetitive at times, not intentionally for effect. I think it could have been possibly the stress of the situation, having to write under time conditions, but this is something she could improve for next time. The use of the homophone allowed was incorrect, unfortunately. Allowed, the first one, A-L-O-U-D, means out loud, and then should be allowed is the correct version she should have used. A few other ways where she could have enhanced the level of her work would have been to include quotations from an expert, giving their opinion on the matter, such as influencers, a sleep doctor, maybe from a BBC article or something like that, the World Health Organization even, a line from them, just to really amplify the facts that mobile phones affect learning, they have an impact on behavioural issues, and this would have pushed her speech up a notch. She could have also included a few more facts and statistics to support her overall point of view, and this would have really given weight to her overall argument.